the open ocean, a place where the rules are few and the stakes are high. But today, that freedom is under threat. A Russian-flagged oil tanker, the Marinera, is on a direct course for Europe. But this isn't just another vessel. This ship is at the heart of an international crisis. U.S. military forces are preparing to intercept. They've tracked the Marinera across the Atlantic. Why? Because this ship is carrying more than oil. It's carrying tension. It's carrying power. It's carrying geopolitics. Just weeks ago, President Trump declared a blockade on oil tankers leaving Venezuela. The U.S. says it's enforcing sanctions. Venezuela calls it theft. And now the Marinera finds itself trapped in this storm. This isn't just a ship on a trade route. This is a battle for control, a fight for power, and the future of global order. Will the U.S. take action and seize the tanker, or will Russia push back and stand firm? In the next few minutes, we'll break it down, the causes, the mechanisms, and the consequences of what happens next. To understand what's really happening, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture. This is not just about one ship, or one country, or even one conflict. It's about the battle for control over one of the world's most vital resources, oil. For years, the U.S. has imposed heavy sanctions on Venezuela, a nation rich in oil but struggling under economic collapse. The goal? To weaken the regime of Nicolás Maduro and cripple Venezuela's economy. Oil, as always, is at the center of it all. But the U.S. isn't just targeting Venezuela. They're sending a message to anyone who defies their will. The Marinera is the latest casualty in this global struggle. With its cargo of Venezuelan crude, it represents everything the U.S. is trying to shut down. Russia's involvement complicates the situation. Moscow has repeatedly backed Maduro's government, and now it's watching closely as American forces close in. This isn't just a battle over oil, it's a clash of global powers. To understand why this is happening, we need to look back. Venezuela was once one of the wealthiest nations in Latin America, thanks to its vast oil reserves. But today, it's a country in crisis. Under President Nicolás Maduro, Venezuela has faced economic collapse, hyperinflation, widespread poverty. Millions of people have fled the country in search of a better life. The United States has long targeted Venezuela's oil exports as a way to weaken Maduro's government. Since 2015, sanctions have been imposed, crippling the nation's economy and oil industry. But Maduro's allies, particularly Russia, have stepped in to fill the gap. Now, the Marinera is at the center of this struggle. With its cargo of Venezuelan oil, it stands as a symbol of defiance against the U.S. sanctions. This isn't just about one ship. This is about global power and the future of the world's oil markets. Just a few weeks ago, the first real confrontation took place. The Marinera, then known as the Bella I, was spotted in the Caribbean on a path toward Venezuela, U.S. Coast Guard forces tried to board the ship. They had a warrant to seize it, accusing the vessel of breaking U.S. sanctions by transporting Iranian oil. But the Bella I wasn't going down without a fight. In a dramatic move, the ship abruptly changed course and rebranded itself, renaming itself the Marinera and switching its flag from Guyana to Russia. This wasn't just a technicality. It was a calculated decision to avoid U.S. enforcement. By reflagging and renaming, the Marinera was trying to throw off the U.S. grip. But that wasn't enough. The U.S. military kept its eyes on the ship. And now, with the Marinera making its way across the Atlantic, it has become the focal point of an international standoff. The question now is, will the U.S. follow through on its threat, or will Russia protect its interests? Now, let's take a step back and ask, what's really driving this? It's easy to see this as a battle over a single ship, but in reality, it's much bigger. The U.S. is not just targeting the Marinera. It's sending a message to anyone who defies its sanctions. This is about maintaining control over global oil markets. The sanctions on Venezuela are part of a broader strategy to limit the country's oil exports. But it's not just Venezuela that's at risk. Other nations, like Iran and Russia, have been finding ways around US sanctions using ships like the Marinera to bypass enforcement. The real mechanism behind all of this, a system of covert operations, reflagging ships, and shifting cargoes to evade detection. And then there's the power dynamic. The US is trying to exert dominance over the high seas, but Russia has made it clear they will not back down. This is a clash of two superpowers using oil and maritime law as their weapons. Now, the situation intensifies. As the Marinera continues its journey toward Europe, the stakes are higher than ever. US military forces are preparing for action. In the past, when ships defied US sanctions, the response was swift. But this time, it's different. This isn't just about intercepting a tanker. It's about sending a message to the world. The US will enforce its rules, no matter the cost. The presence of US military aircraft in the UK only adds to the tension. With helicopters and transport planes in the region, the US is ready to act quickly. Meanwhile, Russia is watching closely, warning that any US interference with the Marinera will not go unanswered. The risk of a direct military confrontation is growing. As both sides prepare for a potential showdown, the future of global oil markets and international relations hangs in the balance. But beyond the politics and power struggles, there's something more personal at stake. The people on both sides, ordinary citizens, are caught in the middle of this global game. In Venezuela, millions are already suffering under the weight of sanctions and economic collapse. For them, oil is more than just a resource, it's survival. The US may see this as a battle for control, but for Venezuelans, it's a matter of life and death. And then there's the rest of the world. The ripple effect of this conflict will be felt everywhere. Global oil prices could rise, shipping lanes could be disrupted, the stability of international trade is on the line. As tensions rise, ordinary people in Europe, the US, and Venezuela will feel the consequences. The impact of this crisis goes far beyond the tanker. It's a fight for the future of millions. The ripple effects of this crisis won't just be felt in Venezuela or the US. They'll spread across the globe. The Marinera is not just a Russian tanker carrying Venezuelan oil. It's a symbol of a larger geopolitical struggle. If the US seizes the ship, it could trigger a series of responses from countries like Russia and China. Both are watching the situation closely, knowing that the outcome could reshape global power dynamics. In Europe, the consequences could be even more immediate. Disruptions to oil supply chains could lead to higher energy prices and a strain on markets already recovering from economic uncertainty. But there's more. This conflict threatens the very principles of free navigation on the high seas. Countries may begin to question whether they can trust international waters to remain open and neutral, or if they'll be forced to take sides in future conflicts. The Marinera is more than a ship. It's a potential flashpoint that could ignite global instability. So, what happens next? There are three possible outcomes to this escalating crisis. First, the best case scenario. The US and Russia find a diplomatic solution. The Marinera continues on its way without incident, and tensions begin to ease. Both sides save face, and global markets stabilize. But that's a hopeful outcome, not a guaranteed one. Second, the middle ground. The US seizes the Marinera, but without direct military confrontation. Russia responds with sanctions of its own, but the situation remains contained. This would be a clear message from the US about its power, but it wouldn't lead to an all-out conflict. And then the worst-case scenario, a military confrontation. The US intercepts the ship and Russia retaliates. Global oil markets are thrown into chaos. Military tensions escalate, and countries around the world are forced to choose sides. This is the most dangerous outcome, but it's one we can't rule out. What happens next will shape the future of global trade, international law, and how the world handles power. So, what have we learned? The Marinera is more than just a tanker. It's a symbol of a much larger global struggle, a struggle for control, power, and the future of international relations. This is a moment in history that could reshape everything we know about trade, sanctions, and military intervention. As the US and Russia face off, the world holds its breath. Will the US follow through on its threats? Or will Russia push back, creating a new chapter in global politics? One thing is clear, this crisis is far from over. The next few days, weeks, or even months could see the balance of power shift in ways we can't yet imagine. What happens with the Marinera could change the course of history. So, what's your take? Is this a fight for justice and control? Or is it the start of a new global conflict? Stay tuned.